Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we're going to talk briefly about collection inventory software, because you would think that would be a fairly easy thing to find, and yet it is not. I spent some time actually trying to find a good piece of software to actually catalog and inventory my own firearms collection. I wanted to do that for a number of reasons. It's often required by insurance companies if you want to insure anything. Theft, natural disaster, any sort of other loss, you want to have proper records of your collection. Simply tracking what you spent on guns versus what you may be considering selling them for. If you get hit by a bus and your family is faced with disposing of your firearms collection, could be useful for them to have a way to know what every gun in that collection is actually worth, or what you paid for it. Or something as banal as, I'm at a gun show and I want to compare a marking on a gun that I'm looking at to something already in my collection, or I just want to show off pictures of a particular gun. Well, if I have a piece of good collection inventory software, I should have access to all that sort of stuff on my phone. Well, I did some looking trying to find this and discovered that there really wasn't anything that actually did this work for a private collector, much less even a large institution like a firearms museum. It's funny talking to Ashley Hlebinsky, formerly of the Cody Firearms Museum. It's really quite remarkable how poor the options are for an inventory system, even for a full-scale museum like Cody. So what I did find while I was looking around was a piece of software called CatalogIt that was focused on largely museum collections, but not firearms specifically. But they had this, what looked like really sophisticated, really powerful software divided up by categories of items. So things like coins, stamps, artwork. They didn't have a firearms category though. So I spent a little while trying to sort of shoehorn firearms into one of their other categories, and it sort of worked, but not really. And ultimately I figured, well, what the heck, I'll just email them and see if maybe they'd ever consider adding a firearms section. Like, I couldn't find any other software that was anywhere remotely close to as good as CatalogIt. Well, lo and behold, when I emailed them, they were actually very interested in adding firearms as a specific category to their software to cater to everything from the private individual all the way up to a full-size, national, international scale museum. So over the past, I think it's like 6 months or so, I've been working with them, along with Ashley from the Cody Museum, to set up a proper firearms category in CatalogIt. And they have now finished it, and I think it's really good. I should say, I don't get anything out of this besides the fact that in exchange for help setting up the software, they gave me a free subscription to it. That's it. But I think it's a really good piece of software for collectors, museums, and kind of everyone in between. And I'd like to introduce you guys to it because I think it could be really valuable to a lot of other people out there. So let's take a look. So right off the bat, when you go to their website, it's catalogit.app, and it takes you directly into your account, your collection. This is a selection of guns I put up. These are basically just pictures and titles that I put in so we could do some screenshots for CatalogIt. But if I want to go down here, by the way, right on the front page, it tells you how many entries you have and total estimated value. This is 1,500 because I think I only put an estimated value on one of these guns. But in order to add a new item, we're going to hit that. And then I can start it with no media at all. If this is a document, remember, CatalogIt was built around a wide variety of different collectibles, not just firearms. So I can actually upload a document or a PDF, or I can start with a photo. And I'm going to go with photos. I have already taken 3 photos of a Bayard 1908 pistol. And this is going to set the thumbnail image for the very first, that shows up on the outside page. So we'll just go with that. And we are going to create a firearm. And it's now going to take a moment to upload my 3 images. All right, so we're going to go in here and we're going to name this a Bayard model 1908. And I can add a separate description if I like. I typically don't do that. Firearm type. One of the cool things here is almost everything in the software, when you select from drop-down menus, you can create new items to fit whatever you would like. So for example, I'm going to say this is a pocket pistol, and I want that to be a specific type of category, type of firearm in my collection. So I'm going to create a new firearm type, which is pocket pistol. Description, compact handguns. Again, I don't need to put this in if I don't want to. We'll click create. There we go. Now we have a pocket pistol. Use, again, this is something I can put in, but I don't have to. I'm going to leave that one blank. For a category here, you can see I had a P38 and a Luger and a lever action on the front page, so I've got those. Let's see, we also have a subcategory that I can add in for things. All right, I'm going to go down to firearm detail, and I'm going to add a model. Model name is Bayard 1908. Create that. Manufacturer. So this is something where I had a misspelling there, Oberdorf. As you build your collection, what you're going to be doing is filling in these things. So in this case, the manufacturer is Piper. We'll create that. Now Piper is going to show up on each of the firearms that I add in new. Caliber, this is 32. So we don't have a 32 yet, so we'll go ahead and add this. Caliber, .32 ACP. And here I can put in an AKA, 7.65 millimeter Browning. Action, so something I asked them to put in. If you want to categorize things by action, you can do that. So in this case, we have a repeating blowback operation. Magazine capacity, 6. Type of finish, in this case, it's blued. Again, I can add in anything else that I want. My serial number on this particular pistol is, let's just say it's 123. We have a specific checkbox here for whether the serial numbers match, so that is a piece of data that is particularly useful to collectors. And so we just put it in there as a checkbox, yes or no, so easily accessible. Now, place made, place used, when it was manufactured, when it was accepted, all of these things I can put in if I want to. We have legal status. So if you want to keep track, especially of NFA-related items, and this is something that would be really valuable for a large museum, you need to know which of the guns in the collection are NFA regulated and which aren't. You can also keep track of some are antiques, so they have no regulatory status. Some are curio and relic. In this case, we have a curio and relic. We have a drop-down menu here for NFA designations that should be pretty much solid at this point, but that's not relevant to this particular pistol. And then just notes, anything else that I want to put in here. Grading, we can put in a percentage grade or an NRA grade. You can identify who did it, when. There's a neat thing here. If I just click the calendar button over here, it will automatically fill in today's date, which I guess also tells you when I'm recording this video. Any notes that you want. Now you can see we have every one of these drop-down menus where you can add other stuff. And a lot of this was copied straight out of CatalogIt's other categories, other types of items. So ethnography is something that's probably not all that relevant to firearms, but it could be, depending on how you're doing this. Inscriptions, signatures, marks. This is something that I like, for example, with my French rifles, there are reception dates stamped on the buttstock, and so I can put in a stock marking. Where is it located? Well, if it's a standard mark, I can even just leave that out, and I can put in, it is, say, a September 1908 dated gun. Actually not relevant to this Bayard pistol, but so we'll drop that out. Dimensions if you want it, parts, if there are relevant other parts, accessories, cleaning rod is a common thing, so we included that, and notes on each particular accessory. I mean, you name it in here. Valuations, here is a particularly relevant one for most reasons people are inventorying firearms. We're going to say that we have an estimate on the valuation. It's not a formal appraisal because we don't have an appraisal built into this system yet. Estimated value, let's say $350 for that guy. Estimator is, well, let's see, my email address is associated with this. Let's just put in me. I am the estimator. So there's that. Estimate was done July 10th again, and any notes that I want to have on it. I can also add in a new valuation and say, I purchased this, purchase price was, so this replaces estimated value. Purchase price was, let's say I got a really good deal on it. I got it for $200. Insurance, is it covered by a specific policy or not? Provenance, if you want to add provenance, where it came from. Disposition, if you want to maintain records after you have gotten rid of firearms. Right here, how you got rid of it, when, sale price, who it went to. Again, things that will be relevant for some people and not relevant for others. Once I'm done with all this, we can save. And now we have our Bayard 1908 up here. We have our first picture, and then this is a summary of all of the information about it. So if I want to add more information in there, I can. If I want to have less, I can do that as well. And then I can print these. If I go back here, we can sort by all sorts of various things. I can arrange these as a list instead of as a checkerboard. And I can run all sorts of reports for all the different various reasons you would want to have a printed out report. If there's a downside to CatalogIt, I really think it is, if anything, too much flexibility in including potentially too much information. There's a bunch of stuff in there that we kind of brainstormed that, you know, some people might like this. You might want to categorize your collection by what conflict each gun was involved in. I can especially see that for a museum. But for a lot of private collectors, it's not something you really need to punch in for every gun in your collection and put it in a database. Like you just know it. So fortunately, there is nothing that forces you to put more information into CatalogIt than you actually want. You can do anything down to as simple as nothing but a basic title on an entry. Not very useful at that point, but you know, title and serial number, title, serial number, and a couple of pictures up to and including every conceivable piece of data about a particular gun. So they have different pricing plans available for different types of users. 4 different ones: organizations, museums, private individuals, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the 4th one. Those pricing plans can get fairly pricey at the high end, but we're talking about literally, I think like the museum or the organization one at the high end tops out at over 100,000 items that you can have in the database. All 4 of them start with a free plan that allows up to 50 entries, and frankly, I think that'll cover a lot of small-scale private collectors who still have a lot of good, valid reasons for wanting to keep this sort of information. They have a phone app that works really well, so you have access, like you can enter all this information on a desktop or a laptop where it's convenient and easy to do, but then you can still access it all from a mobile device, a cell phone. So if you were at a gun show and you want to compare something that you own to something that you're looking at, it's easy to do. If you just want to show someone pictures of a gun that's in your collection, you can pull up those pictures on your phone right there, nicely organized. Anyway, I have a link to specifically their firearms section landing page in the description text below. Like I said, I don't get any sort of kickback from this. I just legitimately think it's a really valuable, really useful piece of software for those of you who are interested in this sort of thing. And that includes all the way up to big museums. Like I said, having talked to Ashley about it, it's kind of incredible how poor the other options are for museum collections. So if you are a large organization and you're interested in something like this, definitely reach out to CatalogIt, talk to them. They have the capability to migrate existing software into their system, which can be particularly valuable. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully this is something that you can find useful one way or another. Thanks for watching.